Hello, Amy. It's a pleasure to meet you. Um, could you give us a quick recap of what your movie is about?
Yeah, so Tide of Change is a short documentary that I made a few years ago now, and it's set in the village where my family live in the Solomon Islands. And it's about a time when my grandmother passed away, and so I came from Australia to visit her, well, to say goodbye to her really in the village. And at that time, our village was affected by really king tides and high sea levels. And they were so high, we hadn't seen that kind of height in a while, many years. So it was a really emotional time in terms of the passing of my grandmother, but also emotional in terms of the tides coming in and out and affecting our lives at that time. Yeah.
Did you have an intention on producing that movie?
Actually, that's a good question because what happened was I had to go very quickly to the village and I just took my camera with me and I just knew that I had to document everything really. So I had about 40 hours of footage and I did interviews with all of my uncles and my aunties and my father as well. And actually, we talked about many, many things in those interviews. But when I came home with all of this footage, I thought, I want to make a film, but what's the most important thing at the moment for my family, and what do I really want to share with an audience in terms of what we've been through recently? And climate change and the rising sea levels was the theme that emerged, from that 40 hours of footage.
Why isn't it possible for the people to flee?
Yeah, in terms of moving from where my family currently are, there are so many issues that they face. In the Solomon Islands, every inch of land is owned. It's tribal land. It's owned by people and families and communities. So, in terms of moving, in terms of space, that's logistically very hard and culturally very hard. Also, the number of people in my village is around about 1,000 people. So, to relocate that many people is really, really difficult. And the other things is just resources, funding, and then there's the connection that my family just have to the land where they were born and where they live. So that in itself, the idea of moving is such an emotional toll as well. So there are many reasons why they can't just leave the village.
Is there why is there no international support for these people?
That's a good question because I think that we do need international support to help climate refugees. And to some extent, there has been non-government organisations doing projects in the village, but really it's not always done with the best consultation with community. Sometimes they come in and will do research and not really follow through with any kinds of outcomes, any real outcomes other than a binder of research. Here you go, have these words on a page. So that's really disappointing actually. And I think that there's more that can be done to help my village and other Pacific Islander communities affected by climate change, but it really has to be done in the right way where it's culturally appropriate. Yeah, definitely.
How do the people on your island live, and how is their everyday life looking?
Yeah, everyday life in the village is it's tough, and people do live every day, day by day. It's hard to kind of have garden spaces now in the village because of the rising sea levels, so that affects food security because of the weather changing. That affects kind of cultural knowledge and navigation when fishing, and affects the times that people can go fishing. It also, in terms of rain as well, it affects water supply because there's no running water in my village, so or electricity. So things are really tough, and you can go to the shop and instead of buying, a box of tea leaves, you'll buy 1 teaspoon of tea because that's just how life is. There's not much employment as well, so it really is a day-by-day kind of struggle. But at the same time, if you ever go to the Solomon Islands, they call it the Happy Isles, so people are really happy and always laughing, which I think just keeps spirits up. Yeah.
And last question: do you think that climate change can be stopped somehow?
I don't think that climate change can be stopped. I think that we can do, particularly I live in Australia, so I have a privilege really above my family, you know, and I think in privileged nations like Australia, we can, we should be doing more to help those who are most vulnerable and being affected by climate change. I don't think that we can stop it, but I think that we can act together to do something about it and to support those who are being most affected.
Thanks for your time and thanks for the interview.
Thank you.
Machen wir gehabt, wie hier, oder?